It's recording now, right?
You're recording.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the agenda here really quick. So I'm going to start with a little about me. We're going to go into objectives. I have a little bit of theory. So like, what is React? Why you want to use React over like AngularJS or Angular? And then we're going to go right into just a basic tutorial of setting up a just a client-side single-page application that connects to an Express backend. So, okay, about me. So I work for Galvanize, obviously. I started as a lead instructor here, so what Brooks is doing now, obviously. So I taught out at GT for 3 cohorts, and I moved into a curriculum developer position, super bored, so now I'm on the software team. And Zay and Bradford are here TAing. They're on the software team right now. Bradford, you came from which cohort?
G25.
G25. And Zay is a former instructor out of Boulder. Which cohorts?
G12, 20, and 23.
Wow. And what G are you guys?
Oh, 6.
46. Wow, man. Let's see. What else? So I started a company, RealPython. RealPython just is a very similar type thing as the program here. It's just Python, obviously, instead of JavaScript, and it's online. I also enjoy tech writing. Love Radiohead. Chillin' is pretty cool as well. Notice how there's links here. Very interesting how this is a link. Wonder what that could be. Guess that's a little Easter egg that you guys can check out when you look at the slides, right? All right, so objectives. How do you guys do objectives usually? Do you guys like read them? Does Brooks read them? What do you guys used to? Do you guys do objectives? Is that a thing? Ah, okay. That sounds about right? All right, so I'll just read them. Objectives. By the end of this talk, you should be able to explain what React is. You may already be able to do that, so we might be able to cross that one off already. And we're going to create a single-page application using React components. We're going to talk about props and states, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the lifecycle methods that you have available that you have available to you with React. And we're also going to be connecting to a Node Express backend. So, any questions thus far? Cool. Okay, so what is React? Let's spend like 5 minutes, I guess, just in like your tables here, just talking about what React is. To access these slides, they're just at nherman.org. You can read the URL up there, but if you, yeah, all right.
Specializes in social media, or only is used in JavaScript?
Can I just use whiteboards?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything that
Which one do you want to use?
What's that? You come okay, I don't need like much.
Usually we don't like to erase the text.
I can.
Like it's written, it's very
I'm going to go find the actual real whiteboard. Yeah, you can erase that.
Sorry about the outlet to the left. You're on there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they're not
There's
real
a few
fancy.
of them.
Not fancy.
Here, I got 1960s.
Sure how well that travels.
That would have been James. Yeah, well, I've killed for a lot less.
They got so deep, it was so hot that when they dug, the rocks would melt.
Oh, there has been areas like
It's like try digging a hole in water. Yeah. It was, they got so deep, it was too hot to keep digging. I don't know how to dig the job.
It's just 30 seconds.
It's your lumberjack. It must be.
That's pretty chill.
The man's know what's there. The only reason we have magnetic fields.
You cannot argue with
Don't do that.
Zero is fine because the horizon is fine.
So what's it right now?
What about the government? Any ties there? Huge misinformation.
It's like
Where's that? Like, almost a basketball player. Legit thinks it.
Well, yeah, you see it's
I was thinking.
No, that's not.
That's a fight you don't work that
Yeah.
And
Still not very.
they brought it back down like 10 in the third quarter, and it was like, all right, they're on a run right now. But the Warriors were
Guys are just turning it over.
And the Warriors actually was a big tie the record for this
The Warriors played so well last night.
just top to bottom.
All right, what is React?
Is that a head rate? Yeah, sure. If not, it is. It's kind of like a spastic arm. Yeah. It's a lightweight front-end framework, JavaScript framework that can use JSX as a syntax essentially.
Cool. I would steer. I think I used framework before, but I'd steer away from the word framework a little bit more. It's a library actually, not a full framework, but everything else is right. Anyone want to add anything to that? Everything? What's up, declarative? Yeah, it's declarative. What does that mean, declarative? You wrote it down.
Yeah.
You're just reading it?
Yeah, declarative.
Yeah.
JavaScript.
Yeah. We'll talk about imperative versus declarative in just a second. But yeah, so going back to the framework versus library, you guys have used what, Angular 1.6? So that's an entire framework. You have the entire MVC structure there. Ember is the same. In Ember, you have an MVC structure there. So you have something that is managing your view. You have a model there, and then you also have like some sort of controller, or like in the case of Angular 1, it's called a service or factory. Now, in terms of the libraries, so libraries are not like the full frameworks. Libraries are just like an individual piece of that MVC structure. So in the case of React, React is actually just a view library. We call it like a UI library, so it just is for your view. So you have to have something else there managing the state. And there are a number of different tools or libraries. Redux is probably the most popular one. It's probably the one that you guys have heard of. In terms of Angular 2, I actually don't know what people are using in terms of state management. I know some people use Redux. I don't think RxJS is actually for state management, but it introduced like a pub/sub type infrastructure for like it deals a little bit with like streams, something similar to streams. A couple other libraries, Backbone, may have heard of Backbone. Marionette is like the, if you want a full like MVC framework. Vue is another one, Vue.js, and Vue uses Vuex for state management. But the powerful thing about libraries versus frameworks is these are one size fits all. Generally, if you're going to be using Angular, you're going to use it for everything. Whereas with a library, you can use it for like a portion of your DOM. So a lot of developers that are like in Rails or like the Python Django land will use like something like Backbone or React because they can use the server-side templating that is powerful in those big frameworks because most of the frameworks are going to be just basic, CRUD apps, or like most websites or web apps are like just big CRUD apps, and so you don't need the power of something like Angular 1 or Ember. You can just take advantage of the server-side templating. But there will be like an aspect of the application that is data intensive, like maybe like a widget. And so you might need to use something that's a little bit more reactive to handle the data there. And so you can just pull on a library for a portion of the DOM. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of? A little bit? Okay. All right.
So one thing we never did go over with Angular exactly what the what's it called, the digest cycle is.
Yeah.
And kind of like why it is like you're not able to make it more modular where you can plug in something else. Like why exactly it's one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, the digest cycle is just an event loop. So if you go back to like JavaScript, JavaScript is asynchronous by nature, and it manages things with an event loop. You guys are familiar with that, right? So Angular has its own event loop basically, and so if you are like interacting with the DOM like with jQuery, Angular doesn't know about it. It's not in that event loop. So that's generally why you want to avoid doing any other manipulation with something besides Angular. Does that make it a little better?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Sweet. All right. All right. So, why use React? So I got some buzzwords here: flexible, it's fast, it's component based, declarative, simple error handling, and there's a strong community. So, the flexibility kind of goes back to what I was saying about like you can just use it for like a portion of your DOM. You can use it pretty much however you want. It's really fast, so it has a concept called the virtual DOM, which we'll go over a little bit later, but it's really fast. It's component based. So what do I mean by components? So like components versus views. So like what is did you guys do server-side templating, Brooks?
We did handlebars.
Okay, so if you think back to handlebars, that usually uses like a view. So that's like an entire page, right? So it's hard to like have something isolated that you want to use over and over again. That like, I don't know, just like if you want like a simple event handler and you want to use that over and over again, you could. It's hard to do that with something like handlebars or like server-side templating. You would have to use probably like jQuery or something for that. But if you like with Angular, it's like you are working usually with an entire view. Now I think the way that the Angular curriculum is set up now, it's more component based. Did you guys do .component or did you guys do what's the other one? I can't remember now. What was the precursor? What was it? Directives, yeah. So were you guys dealing with directives or components or? Okay. So yeah, so you guys have like, you already know what components are, right? Okay, all right, I'll just stop talking then. Sweet. All right, so, all right, what else? So declarative versus imperative programming. What do we got here? Oh, this is a good interview question.
Unsure.
What's up?
I said unsure.
Unsure, okay. Would you guys look that up? A couple minutes.
That's you.
All right, so which one of these is declarative?
Left.
Which one is imperative? Right or left? Right. Okay, all right. You can explain why?
I was gonna say that what I found was basically says that imperative programming, it's you're telling your machine like how to do something, right? And declarative programming, you're just telling your machine what you would like to have it in order to do something.
Yeah.
So like laying out the steps in a function to get somewhere versus just being able to say, let's do this now.
Right. So think if you you go and order like your morning coffee, and instead of like saying, hey, I want a cup of black coffee, you have to say, hey, go pick up a cup, walk over to the coffee machine, pour the coffee, turn around, ask me if I want room. I say no, then you fill it up to the top, and then you ask if I want a little bit of walking room versus a little bit of like no room at all, and you walk over, so it's like you only have to say in declarative programming, make me a cup of coffee, or like I want a cup of coffee. So it's SQL is very, very declarative. You say what you want and you get it. You don't have to tell the machine to the exact steps to get the data out. So does that make sense? Cool. Let's see. So simple error handling. How is the error handling with Angular?
It wasn't bad. I mean, they gave you documentation to click on some of these things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like when you do errors.
Is it better now? No.
Oh, I thought, okay, my bad.
Oh, like it handles error as well, but it
Doesn't describe it.
yeah, it doesn't describe it. You know when an error happens, right? And then it gives you that doc to click on, and it's just like, what the hell is this? This thing means nothing to me. So, React with Create React App, which we'll talk about in a second, which is this CLI, like it gives you awesome error handling. There's also a strong community of support. Cool. Any questions thus far? Sweet. Okay. All right. So here's what we're actually going to be building today. Not that. This here. So basically just a simple CRUD app. This has all the CRUD functionalities. So obviously this is for jobs. I can add a new job. I can update a job. And of course, I can delete a job. So this is just a React app that connects to an Express backend. Yeah.
Sorry, one question back
Yeah.
on the declarative and imperative. So with declarative, where you're just telling it the end goal, is that usually only when you're using a library where there's actually code that is imperative that's actually telling the machine like how to compile that, or is it just like the program's going to pick the most efficient way of doing it?
Probably a mixture of both. It just kind of like with React, it's handling a lot of that behind the scenes, I would say. So that's probably more in terms of the library. With SQL is just the way the language is like structured. That's just how it's set up. So it's a little bit of both. It just depends on like the context. Yeah. So let's go ahead and set up the Express backend. So instructions are up here. You just want to clone this repo down, do your npm install, create the Postgres databases. You guys are familiar with Connects, right? Cool. Yeah, so let's do this together. Yeah, I'll I'll show you in just 1 second. I'll just copy this and do it over here. I can't like zoom in on my slides here for some reason. So get client, actually. Damn it. Can you see that like on the terminal now? Oh yeah, MJHEA0, yeah. That was like my username back in college. I started my GitHub account way too long ago. Okay, where are we at? You guys get the Oh yeah, make sure you CD into the right directory.
Brew installed.
What's up?
Is Gulp Brew installed?
No, you should be able to like no, you can npm install it. You don't have to alt, just npm install globally.
So if we run Gulp, is that gonna set up the database?
You still have the social database.
You asked the secretary?
What's up?
You asked the
Yeah. Yeah, so go ahead and create databases. You have username and passwords on the database, you're gonna have to update the X file. I think you guys are managed for that. But
Yeah, we don't know.
go security.
Why do you Gulp install?
So you
What's the difference of you running dash environment development after your
It'll default to that with development, but let's say like I'm in like test mode. I want to like then you'd have to put in like do dash env test. So it's just passing the that environment variable through. I just got into the habit of doing it. If you're always in development, you don't have to worry about it. You guys there? Number 4. So this is what you should see. You should see, like, if you open your browser, you should just see that JSON.
So it looks all nice like that and not like.
It's some sort of package. Yeah. It's like you Google like pretty JSON, and there's some sort of like extension of these things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless you like.
Yeah. It's hard to parse them.
Yeah, if you do that, like you're just getting like one object back, it's fine.
Yeah, but when you get
5,000.
Yeah, it's like Reddit's API and it's
Yeah.
all the way down.
Like copy and pasting something else actually. It's like probably like JSON or something like that. Does anyone need help? Everyone got it?
Mine works.
Drop his president.
Use type callback. That's pretty good.
Anyone else need help? Anyone else good?
Yeah, we go. Got it. I got the thing that makes it. So it's the gathering.
What's really important is the way why should we never
Yeah, there's no main page. It's it.
Yeah, the object says.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not going to really go over the app, but you guys are pretty familiar with Node and Express, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So with that running, you want to keep that running in a different terminal window because you need that running in order to connect to the back end. So let's start with React. So we're going to use something called Create React App. This is a CLI, which will create a boilerplate for us. So the awesome thing about Create React App is it's configurationless. All you do is you run your CLI, it generates the boilerplate. You don't have to mess with Webpack and Babel. So do you guys know what Webpack and Babel are? Kind of? Babel? Who knows what Babel is?
Yeah, it's a good mark.
Yeah, it's so with JavaScript, with like ES6 and ES7, a lot of the stuff doesn't run in the browser. So what you have to do is if you're writing ES6, ES7, ES8, whatever the hell it is now, you have to transcompile that down into ES5, which can be ran in the browser. So I use the word transcompile. So transcompile versus compile. You guys know what that means? That's an interview question I got asked. And I was like, what the hell? But
Does compile take it down to bytecode? Transcompile just changes the language?
yeah, that's like really close. It's like transcompile is like going from compiling is going from one abstraction layer to a different abstraction layer. So pretty much if you're going from like say Python down to C or like JavaScript down to C, whereas transcompiling is going from like CoffeeScript to JavaScript, or like one flavor of JavaScript to a different flavor of JavaScript. So like TypeScript down to ES5, or ES7 down to ES5. So Babel helps in that. basically, probably from this point on, everything is going to be transcompiled. You're going to have to get used to like using Babel just because JavaScript is moving so fast. It's moving faster than the browsers. So you get a new feature into JavaScript, you want to use it, but you can't use it in the browser yet. So you're writing it, but then you got to get it to work in the browser. So you have to transcompile it down into something that actually works. So Babel does that for you. Webpack is a bundler. So if you have 50 JavaScript files, you don't want that to.
Is that what allows you, so if you have like one module and in that module you want it to run jQuery, but you don't want that module jQuery to be ran anywhere else in your app, Webpack allows you to just put it right there with that one module and nowhere else, so run it where you need it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
It might. Webpack does a lot of stuff that, I mean, the main thing that Webpack does is a bundler. So it takes like multiple JavaScript files and slams them into one, and it manages that one file. It does a lot of other stuff too. It might do that. I'm not certain on that. But so like let's say like you have 50 JavaScript files. You don't want to serve up all those like files. Like that will just take forever for the browser to download. So you want to smash it together in one. Then you want to uglify it. And so Webpack manages that, and it'll give you like, do you know what source maps are? So source maps, like after you run your Webpack and compile it down into one file, makes it very difficult to debug. So source maps allow you to debug that. So it'll, it's basically kind of like a schema, or I would say for like the JavaScript that's smashed down. So fortunately, with Create React App, we don't have to mess with configuration. So most of the time when you're doing like a React intro, pretty much it's an intro to Webpack and Babel. We're going to skip that and just get right to something practical. Eventually, you're going to want to understand, hey, what's happening behind the scenes? I do have a different tutorial for that. I can Slack that out afterwards, but we are going to skip that and get right into the fun stuff. So let's go ahead and install Create React App. I'm using this version, this 1.3.0. So Create React App changes so much that some of these something might be broken in the API. So just make sure you use this version. I think this is it's at least 2 weeks old. I don't know what is the latest version right now, but JavaScript's changing so fast that it might be deprecated. You can check the version. If it's like version 5, probably can't use that. If it's like version 1.40, then you can probably use that. I don't know what the main version is right now.
Yeah, but you have to use the right one.
That's just like I don't know why I can't zoom in on these damn slides. Yeah, so after you npm install it, then you can run that command, create React app. You can call it whatever you want. That's just going to be the project directory, that node jobs-react. Then you can cd into that and then run npm start, and it should fire up immediately.
Yeah. I did the install -cap.
Yeah, we can go.
Okay.
So, I don't know
It
why.
does something different.
Yeah.
I was saying, yeah.
But it still works.
So
So it might be doing something.
I don't say it was.
It should have different behavior.
No, it should.
Oh yeah, don't run this inside, don't create this directory inside your API. These are two separate projects.
Oh,
Everybody's like,
Damn it.
We do what now?
So do not do this. So open a terminal window.
Okay, yeah.
So these are two separate projects. Pretend there's a team in India that's writing your Express app and you can't communicate with them. And they're sending you JSON and all you can do is like,
So we just wanna make JSON, make another directory.
so create a new directory. Yeah.
there's already one.
You already have one.
Well,
Separate project or same project?
Separate project.
Can I just move it?
What's up?
If I already did it, can I just move it out of it?
Yeah.
Does it matter if it's an exercise?
No. No, there's already a no jobs React in there, so you'll just have to call it something different.
where does it mean? Oh, bridge, right.
Yeah, I understand.
No, it's right here, yeah.
In your-
So if you're doing it inside the exercises directory, just call it like something different than no jobs React because there's probably already a no jobs React in there. I'm gonna call it G46 because you guys are G46. It's pretty clever. So when you run that, you guys will see Yarn. You guys know what Yarn is, right? So this is running Yarn, installing everything. So then it gives you a list of commands here. So if you run yarn start or npm start, that'll actually fire up the app. What in the hell? Oh. What do I call it? Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, so we are creating this as a separate directory from no jobs API.
Yeah, because these are two separate projects. Oh, that is so nice. When you run this and there's already a port used, it just says, "Hey, you want to use a different port?" Oh man, that is so
That's
awesome.
great for you.
We figured out what our problem was.
Oh, you did.
So once it's going, you should see this. Is that thing spinning?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, cool.
I never noticed that.
But it's little things. In 30 minutes, right? It's not installed.
Right. I built this.
Whoa, look at that.
Oh, it's actually spinning. You did that. Who doesn't have this?
Can you see the like settle or?
Oh yeah. Here, I'm gonna Slack out the slides, so you guys have that. So why do we have two separate projects here?
That's a great question.
Because our API is
Decoupling?
Too much. Someone said something over here.
Actually, that's a great question.
Okay. So over here.
So your backend communicate with multiple types of client facing.
Yes. Yes. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
You want to repeat it?
So that your backend communicate with multiple different types of front end facing, client facing technologies, whatever you want to build.
This is the power of a single page application, right? So you have one backend, one API, and it can talk to your web, it can talk to your mobile. You can even have it maybe be like an internal API. So you heard the term dog food? Dog food, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big tech term, yeah, dog food. And be able to like use your product internally. Where did that come from?
It came, I believe, from the 60s when a dog food company, the CEO in a marketing campaign basically said, my food is so great, I feed it to my own dogs.
I thought you were gonna say employees for us.
That's what he meant.
Back to work.
Yeah. So now we have one project that someone else can like be working on. We don't need to know anything about it. There's a separation of concerns there. So like one of my first dev jobs literally was like some team in India was writing the back end that I couldn't communicate with. I would get the JSON, the payload, and then have to like get it on the front end. And it was like obviously never right. And so then it'd be like I'd have to send an email back out, and then 12 hours later I'd get another email. It was awful. But so you have this separation here. So this can feed all this stuff. Versus before, you have your monolith. Your web is basically packaged into your API. And you have to basically create a separate API, JSON API to like feed these other things. So this is the power that you get here. Now you can operate with this in one project. You can have like, they call them like mono repos versus like doing separate repos. So like microservices are a big like architecture pattern right now, where you're separating out all of your like services. So you can have like, you could work on the auth. I could work on something different. And like everything is like completely isolated, where everything is like, you can test it out and test it out in isolation versus the entire project. So by breaking it out into separate repos, you have more of like a separation there. I think it's great for beginners too. A lot of junior developers, like I think it's great to be coding on a smaller code base and not having to look at the other like code there. So all you have to do is like focus on that tiny little app, and you can muck it up without screwing up the entire project. So that's another like advantage, like separating it out. But yeah, so we have two separate projects here. One is our API, one is our app, or our React app. Now we want them to talk to each other. So that's going to be basically the rest of the tutorial here. Questions? Okay. If you guys need a break, let me know. Do you guys need a break? All right, okay, all right. Okay, so why create React app? Gives you a nice boilerplate. You don't have to configure Webpack and Babel. You can just like start creating your app right away. You get sane error messages. So, all right. Okay, so let's take a look at the structure that we have going on right here. So we do the tree command. So this is our project structure. Really need to pay attention to this public directory and the source directory. So we have a lot of shit going on in there. What the hell is all this? Basically, we can get rid of everything in there except the index.js always has to be there, and index.html always has to be there. Like those files have to be there for Create React app to work. If you remove any one of those, it's going to break. Or either of those, it's going to break. But we have this and these other files here, and basically Create React app is like already like thinking that we're going to be creating like a bigger app. We want to separate things out into different files. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to keep it simple. So we're going to actually remove everything except which two files?
Indexes.
Indexes, yes. Let's leave the favicon and the. I'm not sure what's in the manifest, but let's leave that as well. So let's just go ahead and remove app.css. Actually, I'm just going to do this in Atom. That's silly. Yeah, you didn't see that. Okay, so we're going to set up a new project. So you remove the app CSS, remove all that crap out of there, and now we're just going to update the index.js. So just go ahead and either copy and paste this from the slides I sent out, or type it out. You guys got the slides, right? In the Slack channel? I selected out. Okay, cool. You guys are familiar with ES6, right? How about classes?
You're gonna officially covered this.
Okay. Look, what's your order? Just kidding. It's a joke. This should be familiar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you use a word making out a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at what we're doing here. So we're importing React. We're importing React DOM. So React DOM, as the name suggests, is for the client side. There's also React, I think it's called Server, because you can actually use React on the server side and serve it up similar to server side. So that's built into React or React DOM as well. So now we're creating a new app that's just ES6 function, and we're returning something from there. Well, that looks kind of strange in there. Is that HTML in a JS file? That seems a little bit dirty, right?
Isn't it doing the JavaScript behind the scenes? Like, isn't it already doing the add-on type stuff?
Yeah. And then we're calling a method on React DOM called render, and we're passing in 2 arguments, passing in an app, and then we're doing document.getElement by ID root. So let's see what's going on line. What's going on in line 5 to line 9? I think somebody said JSX earlier. This is JSX. So this is how you write HTML in your JavaScript. So the theory is that instead of separating out all your concerns between like a JavaScript file, HTML file, CSS file, you're compacting everything together. So you put CSS in here as well. So let's say that I create a really cool widget that somebody else wants to use. So now they can just npm install that widget, and it has the JavaScript, it has the HTML, and it has the CSS all in it. And it's all compact into a single component, and so you can get it on the DOM really quickly. So if you think how, like when you're interacting with individual components on the DOM, you can completely separate things out in terms of your JavaScript, your HTML, and your CSS. So this is the syntax here, obviously. So instead of some class name, if we use the word class there, the interpreter would think that we are using the keyword class. So that's why we have to do a camel case class name. That'll actually get compiled down. When it gets transcompiled down to HTML, it'll get compiled down into, it'll just say class. Does that make sense? Okay. When we look at the actual code in the browser, that'll make more sense. From there, we're passing in our app, and then we are targeting the root ID on the DOM, and basically it's appending that component to the DOM. So if we look at our index.html, you see there is a single div with the ID root. That's how those are connected. So document get element by ID root, it's targeting that. It's appending this into that. So it's like taking that component and putting it into that div. So if you go back and look at your code here, we have that ID root, right? We open this up, there's our app, right? With the class name app. So that's actually the component there that is getting injected or appended, whatever word you want to use there. There's probably some fancy word, but Let me actually run this thing again. So you can see, if you go back to my code, you can see all there is just what, a div with class name and container, and then an H1 of no jobs. So you can see that right there, right? You can see the container, the class name. You can see the H1, and there's the root. So it's like like super. It's just connected. You guys can see that, right? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I guess I'm just confused, because in I-64 is how it's actually getting to the public folder. Just through the root.
It's create. It's like magic behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Yeah. That's why the index.html file has to be in that public folder, because Create React App by default is like looking for an index.html file in the public folder with an ID of root in there, basically. Questions on this?
Is class name specific to React? It's like a React.
It's specific to JSX, so yeah, I would say yeah. I don't know if you can use JSX outside of React, but it's. Do you know?
I've heard that there's some people using it in Angular too.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, JSX is just HTML inside of JavaScript, and you can compile it to whatever it's supposed to be.
Okay, so before we move on, let's take a look at, go back to like what we're building here, and let's talk about how, like, if you want to structure an app, how you go about doing it. So we have like list items here. We have like a button here. Actually, I'm not going to draw this out. This is silly. Let's just do it all up here. All right, so you guys know what components are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How many components do you see up there? One. Yes. No way. You guys don't know what components are.
There's,
No.
so add job,
At least three. You see three.
Four?
Four?
Couldn't you theoretically put this
Four?
on 5?
Three? Okay, let's see.
The header is its own component.
Yeah, that's why.
Don't you only want components for things that you want to repeat?
So,
Yeah, you could think of it like that. So, I don't remember actually how many I did here. So, there isn't a right answer here, but it's more than one. So you could do this it depends on how complicated the list item is. So right now, basically, I have an add job. So this is going to be one component. The entire thing is going to be like a basic like root component. So we're going to have two components there. And then we have this going on here. So the update is actually the same component. I don't know why that didn't work, but the update is the same component as the add. I'm just doing different things in there because it's the same exact form. So that's three components. This entire UL or OL, whatever this is, could be one component or it could be two. It depends on how complicated each list item is. So if you think about how you're structuring your site, maybe you're going to be using that same sort of structure for each list item. And so you want to be able to reuse that, like you were saying, and so you probably create another component there. Or you could keep it just as one single component. Let me show you a different example. Arrow. Okay. I think I have an image here. So in this app here, this is the same sort of thing. It's just LI. It's just a UL with an LI. Each one of these LIs is a little more complex. So I have like an image there, and I have like an add to collection. So I actually use a different component there for each individual LI. The UL is a component, and then the LI is a component. So it's subjective. There isn't, a right answer there, but it's like you could do this in what, 1, 2, you could do it in 3, you could do it in 4, you could do it in 15 if you wanted to, but that would be insane. You probably wouldn't want to do that, but we're gonna do it in 3. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. You're just saying yes.
No.
Yes. Right answer is yes there.
Am.
Okay.
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
It's better to err on the side of granularity with components. It's better to be more granular.
Well, I mean, you could really get you could have not only each LI as a component, you could have like each, column component if you wanted to, if it was like that complex. So in this case, yeah, you could get pretty insane with this. Like you maybe have more, like with a delete, like there is no, I don't have my backend set up, that's why this isn't working, but maybe with the delete, you actually have something that like says like, are you sure you want to do that? Maybe that would be like a separate component. Right now, I'm not doing that. I'm just keeping it simple. So if you delete this, then it's gone. Like you're really hoping for that horse whisperer job. Like man, it's gone. All right, so okay, what's happening here? So this is a functional component. We'll talk about the difference between a functional and a class-based component in just a second. So it's a functional component. It's called app. Why do we call it app? That's just de facto. It's just the way that you set up like the first like root app with React. You can call that whatever you want. You should call it app just because 99% of the time it's going to be called app, or 99% of the time you'll see that in examples. It returns JSX, and then we're using that render method to mount, eject, whatever word you want to call it, onto the DOM. Why is the class name a camel case? Do you guys remember that? JSX, that gets transcompiled down to class. The reason why we can't use class in there is because the compiler would get confused and think it's actually a, well actually, I don't know what it would think it would be, but you have to use class name. Okay, so class-based component. So we used a functional-based component before. Now we're going to do a class-based component. So in terms of ES6, you said you haven't touched classes, right? Did you guys deal with prototypes and all that with JavaScript?
Yeah, I haven't taught that yet.
Damn it. All right. So we're going to gloss over this pretty quickly then. So basically what's happening here, I don't know how to describe this then.
Should look it up on India the day of what classes and it was confusing as well.
Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of like a factory that you can like use over and over again. So this is like a blueprint. It's like, this is not, if you're like creating a building, this is not the building, this is a blueprint. So this is like just a set of instructions to actually create something. So it's not like the real world. So you actually have to take this and do something else with it in order to create an actual app. And that what is going on is happening behind the scenes. Basically, this is class. The app here is extending from component. Component is is another class. You can think of these as just like functions that have like special meaning, which is actually what they are, because JavaScript still uses prototypical or prototypal inheritance behind the scenes. But so this is taking properties from component, which is getting imported from React, and we're using that to create a component. The constructor method basically is what is, this super here is basically what is used to pull in properties from component. We're doing our render here. This is going to be the same. The big reason why you want to use a class-based component versus a functional component, and this is an important, this is why you want to, so the main reason why you want to do this is to have access to state. So when I say the word state, what does that mean?
the app and how it relates to the backend, where it is.
Yeah. It's actually, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like, it's like your model. So in your Express app, you could say the state would be like your, your Connect schema. It could also be the data in your Postgres. In Angular, it would be, if you guys did you use services, factories? If you use like services, that's where like your state would be. So it's just what is like, yeah. It's hard to,
We were doing 2 days, so I mean, whenever you're picking your model, you're seeing everything, so it's kind of hard to break it down because I'm looking at it like view what you're saying model, right? So
yeah.
it's as if, like this state will actually
It's like pretty much this here. It's like this is what we're using here to populate our application. Like it's just the data in our application. So in Node and Express, it would be like your model, and then like in MVC, it's always the model. So the model could be like your schema, or it could be the actual data in Postgres. With Angular, it would be like your service or factory.
So you're saying that class-based component is the way to go, and not like the way that you just did copy and paste it, just having the app?
So no.
Okay.
You want to use class-based components strategically. So class-based components are considered dirty components because they have access to state. So you may not have been creating like big enough Angular apps to like experience this, but state can be difficult to manage in Angular because there's too many things touching the state. Too many things can manipulate the state. So like maybe the end user touches the state on the client, which then updates something in a factory, and then the factory then updates something on the client, and then you get into like a circular thing there. And then sometimes it's like, well, why did that change? Or like, I didn't do anything. And then somebody else is like has some sort of factory or service that is like manipulating state. So there's too many areas that manipulate state. And so React came about, the philosophy is like, we are going to limit how you touch state. There's only going to be certain ways to touch state. And in class-based components, you can manipulate state. Functional-based components, you cannot. So if you were to architecture your app in like a perfect, pristine way, it would be one class-based component, everything else functional components. Now, that's not really real world, but if you can think in that terms of like, do I really need to be messing with state inside a component? Lost my wording there, but if you're constantly thinking about whether you need to like touch state, then that's generally a way to go when like you're thinking like, is this going to be class-based or is this going to be functional-based? Does that make like, as long as you get out of this like, all right, class-based components, I can update state. Functional-based components, I cannot. I should limit the amount of class-based components.
So then you wouldn't want your class-based components to house like everything else that's going on in your app. Like you wouldn't want to have all your other modules or all your other components going inside of that. You just want to use it for one specific purpose, or would you put everything inside of it?
Well, everything is going to be inherited from the root, and we'll talk about how that works. But you can pass certain things down from this parent or root component down to child components or subcomponents.
So would you want your root component to be class-based, so that way anything can have access to the state?
Yeah, the root component would like almost always have to be, because like otherwise your application would have no state.
Right, that's okay.
So in Angular 1.6, you can pass stuff down via data bindings, but you're limited to only like 2 or 3 layers. Is there a limitation with React?
I don't know, do you know?
I don't think so. You mean like how many?
How many layers down you can go down, you can pass data down?
Yeah, like I don't think there is a limit. Like I've used it and like passed it through a bunch of stuff.
Is this the same concept though as testing these down via the data bindings in Angular?
It's similar. You do it a little bit different, but the concept is the same. Yeah.
So I think you can make a class-based component like, without defining a constructor within it. Is that bad practice to do, or because then that way you're not defining state within that component, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if you need a if you didn't call it super in here, you wouldn't have access to the properties and component. In this case, you need the component because that's coming from a React. And so in order to actually create a React component, we need the constructor here. I think I understand your question, but I think in most cases you're still going to have to like call super to be able to pass down certain things that you need. But that's a good thought. Okay. Why don't we take a break? I'm losing my voice here, so maybe like 5-minute break or something.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should be functional, should have any side effects, therefore it should be easier. I don't know if I threw a curveball, but so I have built this like voting app in React,
Oh, cool.
and I have this component, but nowhere I watched a tutorial for this.
Yeah.
Nowhere in it there's no constructor or super, but it still works. So like, is that just bad practice to do? Like,
It might be calling super behind the scenes.
I've just seen that a couple times, so I was
Yeah.
wondering like,
Is this in one component here, or is this multiple components?
this is just one component.
Okay. It might be calling super behind the scenes. It may not even be. I may not. React is doing a lot. This Create React app is doing a lot behind the scenes.
All the Webpack stuff.
Yeah, it's
And
also
this is also Meteor too, so
it's also what?
Meteor.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
Meteor affects it.
It depending on like, because Meteor usually uses Blaze, from what I remember. So like you're probably having to hack a little bit.
Well,
of
they've
Meteor.
added stuff lately. They've added a bunch of
Okay.
compatibility to React.
Yeah,
But,
I'm not sure. You might want to Google that exact
I
question.
was just wondering, like, without constructor, is it functional at that point, or is it still class?
It's still a class. It's just you don't have like if you don't have a constructor, you're not having properties.
Yeah.
And also, it might be calling super behind the scenes whether you put in a constructor and super as is, because you won't have access to the render method without it. Because the render, yeah.
Okay. Because that's
Oh, actually, no, it is.
a lot of tutorials do it that way, but then so that confused me a little bit. But
Yeah,
it's probably just better practice to if you're not.
I think this is more explicit.
Uh-huh.
You might want to just throw it in there and see what happens. And like maybe if it completely breaks, then obviously I'm a liar. But so
Cool.
But yeah,
Well,
thanks.
Maybe down here when
Okay,
you
so
render.
mine, I'm changing my index.js, but it's not changing this at all. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong.
Do you have? Let me see your terminal. It's running. Okay. How did you run it?
npm start.
Okay. Weird. Okay. Try killing it and just running it again. Sometimes when you like.
I've done it a few times.
So you can change like what's happening in the render, but you're not changing state. Okay. Does that make any sense? Like say that this like default functional component is like.
It always takes a minute to load because it's like doing all the
Like
web
let's say what this does is
stuff
it
behind the
renders
scenes.
this little
Okay.
image of a person.
All right.
You can like
You want to?
pull this.
I don't know if it's
Toss your thing up there.
because, like, I have it just in the W2 folder.
Component, right?
And
In
that's
HTML,
React
like with this
6.
HTML renders, you'll see this photo. But this photo component stuff never changes
Okay. Maybe
state.
that's it.
The state's totally different. Right, so like, I think you're blending some of those like ideas of functional and pure functional. This can change the component, like you still insert it into like your JSX and like do stuff on the page, but it's not changing.
This is not in the source,
There's this thing, this
so it's still reading from this.
Oh,
Yeah. So just remove everything in here.
This set state.
This.
Inside these class components.
Did that delete
stuff
everything?
in state.
I thought I hit.
got them up.
So up to this point, I mean, like I said, the state is just.
Didn't I just delete everything?
Define the states.
So we actually just
Yeah. It didn't actually work. Like this select wasn't working.
That's really kind of where I am with.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, I feel like
That was
cross
weird.
pollination
Okay.
that happens within frameworks and stuff. So like some of the things you think
So
of
now
like
if we move that into there.
a little different.
Sure.
I think somebody's
Let's
functional.
throw
I
it.
did.
Yeah, and then you have like a bunch of words that you might
Well,
like, it's the same.
it's kind of like you're not touching state. It's like, all right, well, I'm changing the state of your.
Of like
Of
the
like
page.
ash.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
like
working
they're-
now. It's just
Yeah.
take out that equals.
Yeah.
Or actually, yeah, take out the equals. Like, yeah, you'll have to just
Oh,
update that.
okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah.
Hopefully it didn't come off like rude, because it was like you were shaking your head yes, but you're acting like.
Really? Oh no.
It's just